So today's discussion will probably take about, 1 second. Will take about 60 to 90 minutes, depending on, how deep we really want to get into the topic. And then towards the end, I'd love to, for those of you that can stick around, I'd love to address a anonymous CA's comments on our proposal as well. That's after the after town hall breakout room. So welcome. Okay, I want to see this by this meme. Can you guys see my screen real quick? Awesome.
Yep.
See, here's a, so you're telling me diversity and inclusion improves overall life perspectives, right? Is it? All right, I'll hand it off to Beatrice.
Okay, thank you so much, Ninh. Welcome everyone to this breakout. Today, we're going to talk about diversity, equity, and...
Beatrice, you're very quiet, by the way.
Okay. Okay, so let's start again. Welcome everyone to this breakout. We're so happy to have you there. And today we're going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So without any further ado, let's start with the next slide. Okay, so now the first question is, why do diversity, equity, and inclusion matters for Cardano? In the beginning, before we start answering this question, we have to define a little bit what does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean. First, we know diversity means like everybody is different in their own way. So it's every group. You see, each culture is different. Each country, everybody see things differently. And the second thing, the equity. So it just how to do like the way we make everyone, like make it fair for everybody to just enjoy something. And inclusion. So we see like we want to put everyone to make it, in order to make it fair, everyone's supposed, yes, the fairness, everyone's supposed to be like included in it. It's not only for one part of the person. So when we say, why do diversity, equity, and inclusion matters for Cardano, we can answer this question by, we have to make sure that everybody, it matters in their own ways. So that's why, and every group, every culture is supposed to be welcome in Cardano. So especially, and if you look at what now, inside of the tech field, we see that in the blockchain and in the meeting, mostly we saw mostly men than women. So it is our job as well to just include more diversity, more people to understand why it is Cardano, why that's the only way we're going further, when we include everybody inside of the whole. So because I know, like if we take an example as a finger, we have 5 fingers and 1 hand, but every one of them has a length, different length, but each of them play a specific role. So that's why this diversity, equity, and inclusion matters inside of Cardano. This way we will introduce more people, bring more projects, and we will open more doors for others. So I don't know. Somebody else want to add something about that? Why do diversity, equity, and inclusion matters for Cardano? Ninh, why do you think? Why this matters?
Nori, you want to go? I'll share for sure.
Let me put my video on. I think Cardano is really looking at including and building solutions for the planet. And we're talking about many different cultures, many different worldviews and perspectives. And a lot of the technology to date, at least in the spaces that I work in, software development, has been built by traditional Silicon Valley or white male engineering teams. And I think it's really critical that if we're going to build a solution for the planet, we need to bring in as many diverse viewpoints and ideas and voices into that conversation. And I think these three words are really important. I think diversity is an outcome that we want to strive for, because many studies have shown that diversity leads to better outcomes. But I think that's the output metric. The input metrics are equity and inclusion. Like, we need to be inclusive. We need to bring people in and make them feel safe and welcome, and that their voices matter. And then equity for me is really about understanding that there are systemic biases that we may not even be aware of that puts certain people or cultures or individuals at a disadvantage to start with. And we need to recognize that and make enough space or provide the right support so that they can at least start on the same playing field as people that come from a more privileged background. So those are kind of my thoughts when I think about these topics and why it's important for Cardano. So thanks for holding this space.
Awesome. Thank you, Nori. To me, the intersection of inclusion, equity, and diversity fundamentally is belonging, right? You know, if we are to grow and achieve the maximum, let's say if there's an ideal human state and human morality, right? And there's an ideal state for Catalyst or Cardano to be able to maximize its potential, whether it's a value Veda or its impact, right? Being able to impact the most amount of people's lives in the most meaningful way. I believe that, you know, we need to engage everyone's potential, every community member's potential. And, you know, there will be people that, of course, don't want to contribute and don't want to engage, but there will be those that have bright ideas, great ideas, conflicting ideas to our own sometimes, and conflicting perspectives. But it's important to have a place where we can have open and frank discussion and let ideas, solutions, right, that may not necessarily come from our own cultures or worldviews, to have a chance to compete, so that everyone can feel like they have a place to belong, right? They're part of the solution and process. One difference between kind of having projects or companies or proposals kind of build their own thing and focus on making themselves rich, right? Instead of having a lot of proposals and projects being mission-driven, is that when you're a mission-driven project or proposal or individual, you're less worried about, you know, keeping things secret or hiding things or making things proprietary, right? And that stems from understanding that together we can achieve something much greater and bigger than if we do things by ourselves alone, right? When individuals and teams are mission driven, then it's a matter of experimentation, right? Do as much as you can in order to create impact. And I think diversity, equity, inclusion fosters just that: more impact faster, making more connections.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Ninh. Without yes, without a sense of belonging, we cannot really understand. We cannot really make the whole that we are talking about. So when we bring everybody on the same pace, now we can really make impact that we are looking for. So not only we are only on one aspect, but and everywhere where we think that we need to be put our idea together to make something happen. So this thing, like Nori was saying earlier. So when we take an example of Silicon Valley, we saw that a lot of people, it they stay building businesses by themselves, and then really there's no inclusion. When you go inside of some of the companies, some of the businesses, you see only the type of the person, because there's not really an inclusion that we are talking about. So that's why we have to make sure that inside of Cardano, we work on a way that it is when you saw that we are everywhere. Canada, it's kind of several countries. So we want to open large where we can embrace more I can say those people in Silicon Valley, explain them why we need to include more people where inside of this tech field, especially. So this field, we need this inclusion. We definitely need it. So that's why I think like Nori and you have a very great argument point.
Anyone else has a Harsha? Go ahead.
I'm just piggybacking off of what Nori said. I think some solutions can work for everyone, but there are some solutions that are very culture specific. And these solutions, I think, have to come from people in the culture itself. And that is why I think people from different cultures have to be a part of the ecosystem to solve problems for around the world. So yeah.
I'd like to go quickly. I'm just about to feed myself. I think what we really need here is, when you get diversity and inclusion in here, we prevent ourselves from ending up in the type of echo chamber that caused some of the problems that we've got at the moment. So bring all the voices in, and it becomes a self-regulating feedback mechanism. You know, we hold each other to account and make sure we're not going down the same problems that created in the past. I'm going to go on to mute, but I'm going to continue to be a part of the conversation just while I feed myself. Excuse me.
Welcome to join us, Alan. Thanks for joining.
Yes. Like you said, what's his name again? What talking was his name? I didn't see.
It was
Okay.
Alan. It was Alan, Beatrice.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's what's happened. Like you said today, this ecosystem. If you look at around you, so like somebody like with a mode of thinking said, I deserve your place. I want your place just for them. So that's why there's, if you talk about this, this ecosystem problem, we see that there's no place for like the equity. So we're supposed to follow the, if you look at the ecosystem, like you said, everybody, everything is on their own, play their own role to for this system to, like, if you look at the body, every part of the body play a role with to make the whole that we are talking about. So that's a kind of equity inclusion. So make every in every situation, there is a way to solve the problem. So that's what I want to add after what Alan said, about what Alan said. Anybody has any other suggestion, opinion about that?
I mean, I can jump in. Hi, everyone. It's Gabriel, currently in Paris. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I have some experience in diversity and inclusion in a couple of continents, let's say. And I agree with everything that was said. Honestly, like really everything was done brilliantly and all the comments were great. But I think really, if you want to answer the question simply, like why do diversity, equity, and inclusion matter for Cardano? It's simply because we want to attract the best. Okay, I'm in HR as well. So when we talk a bit about bringing people into the ecosystem, you need them to really feel at home, like everybody was mentioning. So diversity and inclusion here is really a basic need somehow to build this ecosystem from an attractiveness perspective, right? Other than the fact that we spoke a lot about innovation, we want to innovate, we want to change the world to a better place, we need innovation, right? And innovation, someone said it, it was proven that inclusion specifically drives really innovation. So without that, we cannot really change the world. And in the crypto market and in the crypto ecosystem, I mean, people are really need to be felt home. You know, everybody feels he belongs to a certain blockchain, etc. So without that, Cardano will actually lose wallets, if we put it also in simple terms. So really, why do we really need it? It's there. It's been there for a while. I've really built diversity and inclusion in Saudi Arabia and Dubai, in countries where it was a joke 5-7 years ago. And the impact that you see is really like it's visible how it changes the whole organization, ecosystem, mindset, etc. that you've been mentioning. So just wanted to top all the good comments with a bit of simplicity in the process, I think. Yes. That's my input.
Yeah, I really like your input, Gabriel. So we see it's not gonna happen without an education. We have to educate people. Just let them understand. It's not gonna happen if they don't go in. So the education is a big part of this inclusion that we are talking about. Let them understand, because sometimes they used to say when you don't know something, it just is a mystery for you. But after you understand what is mean, what is they are talking about, and then the person will have to bring their own culture, their own vision inside of this organization. That's why the education is a very good. We have to just do more inside and produce more money. Anyone want to Anyone else? No?
I think Gabriel wanted to say something. And right now, just Aya was talking. Yeah, I muted you if you wanted to say something.
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I should mute myself before getting to the room. I'm sorry. This is my mistake. I'm very sorry.
No worries. Welcome to the discussion. We're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and the question right now is, what does diversity, equity, inclusion mean to you, and what does it mean for Cardano even? No ideas are too small, comments too small, feedback too small. So share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear them.
Is it me? So
anyone here in the room.
Okay, for me, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to add about this. So.
Okay, thanks for joining. Ashton, go ahead.
In it wouldn't be critical race theory, but in the general idea of social sciences in university, when I studied that stuff, there was an idea of, it's called subalternati, and it's the position a person is put in when their world is dictated by something else. And so they have to cover who they really are to conform to the thing they're in. And the thing is, this actually can get embedded. So for instance, someone could maybe have to wear multiple hats, but they have to wear them. So it's not, they can't be themselves. They have to, like I said, conform to someone else's standard. And that the reason why it's important, building on what everyone else said, is the people in this position necessarily have the most experience with being the most anti-fragile, I think is the word people use in Cardano, because they have to deal with, precarious situations and balancing themselves in all the ways they do, which gives them unique insight to how to understand very complex systems, for instance, like blockchain technology, which is a network, of people who either have access or don't. And like the previous speaker mentioned, because it attracts the best, because these people do have that unique insight and experience they have, if we don't have the inclusion and diversity and the equity of that, then the space doesn't exist for those people to feel comfortable enough to come forward and be able to share what they know. I said that was kind of more long-winded than I was hoping, but the critical thing is that without it, we don't have the space for the people who are most affected by its lack. And they are most able to give some insight because of their unique relation to having to deal with not having it to be in the first place, especially if that's our objective. So I'll stop there, but hopefully that came across clearly enough.
Beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. I'm listening. Beautifully said.
What's interesting to me, just as a side note, is actually the reason I can understand that a little bit in the way it was, is because I look at it as think of it, it's almost like a zero knowledge proof game, right? That's maybe a little complicated, but it's a matter of sharing information, and how can information be shared in a way that helps not just the information, how it adds up, but how it adds up, together. Like, I guess the idea of how that information is synthesized. So anyways, just as a side note.
Brilliant, Ashton. That kind of reminds me of, how AI tends to be a little bit biased because of training data, because there's not enough, I'm gonna pick on Nori. Nori, one of your previous employers had a hiring AI that, because it was trained on historically who got hired at Amazon, then it essentially was scoring female candidates lower, because historically most of the engineering hires were male, right? And it wasn't just directly like, hey, you know, you're male or female. It was based on gendered words. So things like, you know, and that kind of leads us to the next topic.
Yes.
Yep. You know, things
Before we
like,
jump,
yeah, go ahead.
if I can say something. You reminded me, I can't find the video, and I don't know if they took it down, but MIT had 2 graduates. They made something called the Echo Nest. And the Echo Nest is a repository of all music. One guy is does the mechanics of sound. The other guy does the mechanics of the lyrics, right? And so they build a whole database that spans like what all music is. And it's called the Echo Nest. And they gave a talk. And one of the things they pointed out was that when you have a consolidation of the production of all kinds of music, you necessarily weed out anything too small to get initial traction. You know, that's kind of like what you're saying in a way too, which is interesting, because then that means a system that's too big to fail is also too big to be inclusive enough to include the things that would let it not fail, right? Because I also going to know the way to, you know, anyways, also, if you could, maybe someone else can find the video, but it's in one of the talks where they're talking about what the Echo Nest is. And then it's one of the points he makes at the end, but it's, if you can find it, it was a really good video. It's also an interesting project.
Awesome. I'll try to find it while we discuss the next question, and put it in the first slide. Thanks, Ashton. Great points. Okay, yeah. Popcorn to you, Beat.
Yeah. So the next question say how to be more diverse, equitable, and inclusive. So we're gonna start. I can take an example inside of the Snapbrillia where we are. So we make sure that we don't look at. We just focus on what the person can give us, can bring to us. So it's not we don't care about the culture. We don't care about if it's a male or female or the race. We just care about what it can bring to us in order for us to succeed, to help solve our mission. You know? So that's why I think we can solve this problem by, you know, considering what the person can bring instead of just where this person come from, or what is just we have to only focus on what they have to offer to Cardano in order to move forward. So I don't know if somebody else has something else to add from that.
Yeah, I want to go ahead.
Sorry, but sorry, my question was, how do you do that without also discarding the value of where they are coming from? Because if you do that, then at least, like, if it's utilitarian, what can you get from the person as opposed to what can they deliver? Because you no longer also regard, how can you avoid that is, I guess, my question.
Yeah, Ashton, I think I want to clarify what Beatrice, not clarify, add on to what Beatrice meant, right? So I do most of the recruiting here at Snapbrillia for all of the teams. And what I meant was, what I do is I look at the person as a whole, right? I actually don't look at their resume as much as, you know, what they were able to do or what they want to learn moving forward. And like, number one thing I look at is work sample. Have they done the work? Maybe yes, if they're junior. If not, that's fine. You know, if it's a junior role. I'm not one of those teams that require people to have 2 to 5 years of experience for entry level role. We're okay to train and teach, but you know, beyond that is looking at passion, right? Are they willing to put in the time and work? And I think that's what Beatrice is referring to. Like, are they willing to commit to the journey with us, right? Are they willing to commit to the Cardano Catalyst community with all the good and bad that comes with it, everything, right? And are they willing to be open to working with others? You know, we've been very lucky and fortunate to be able to isolate like what we value the most in a team member, right? And you know, and not consider other aspects that most other companies are considering, right? Do they have, because part of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I talked to a recruiter at Facebook and they said, well, you know, underrepresented people, the problem and one of the challenges of hiring them is they historically don't have the experience or they weren't, to be a senior developer, XYZ, right? And it's historically because they weren't given the opportunities to earn that experience. So it's a, you know, just understanding where data and what data is coming from, and making, you know, more inclusive decisions on, you know, what we value the most, right? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I want to clarify something. When we say that, Ashton, so in every organization, they have rules. That's what that keep the organization running. Yes, we're not going outside of the rule, but at least when we say, when I say the way I said, we just like take advantage of first there is a rule to hire somebody. So first you put the all the requirement out. So this person already knows what is, if he can do the job, he apply for it. Okay, so now I said that in a way like we when we like Ninh just said, when we look at the application, we saw that we want to be honest on ourselves as well, because we said just, oh, you want to treat people the way you want to be treated. So that's this kind of solution that we bring to fix this inclusion and equitable diversity. That's what I mean by that. So we didn't go out of the rule. So at least you cannot take anybody, just come bring because we want to do the inclusion, just bring, we're not doing that because there is a rule. So if this person cannot make the job, we cannot take it. So that's why I go higher level. So after I pass all the requirement.
It helped me. Thank you for both answering that question. That was maybe more personal than it was helpful for other people, but the answer that you both pointed to that is not personal is that it seems like it's when you make it about what they can bring, then it's about the trust you build with them going forward, because you really can't take someone's word for it. Really, you can, but you know, you can only go from what you agree on, you know, to build something off of. Otherwise, it's based on assumptions rather than, you know, reality. So thank you for clarifying both of that. That helps a lot, actually.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because at least from the beginning, if we don't trust this person, how can you gonna handle the core of the business to work with you? So there's the trust. First, you have to understand you're supposed to have a little trust.
Yeah, to give you another example, Ashton, right? The reason why we started the company Snapbrillia in the first place is understanding the different filters in society that people use. So for example, I talked to the head of recruiting at Microsoft. She's now at Netflix, right? And she told me, hey, I looked at the engineering hiring numbers, right? And I saw the biggest drop off of underrepresented candidates in the coding assessment step, 50% or higher, right? And I was wondering, like, you know, why? What the heck? I thought coding assessment is supposed to be somewhat reasonable, right? And by the way, these numbers, they won't share it, right? It is also validated by third party. I'm happy to share a link if you're curious. But when you think about it, like, ask why, right? When you and a couple of things came to surface. It's not that underrepresented communities, they don't send people to like four-year universities. They do, like, people study computer science, math, whatever, right? But oftentimes the universities that they get to attend in larger numbers, they're not super well funded, right? So they don't teach you like how to pass a coding test, right? They'll teach you a degree, the skills that you need. Another reason there's a huge stigma against people who don't have a CS degree, right? All of my co-founders here, including myself, we're self-taught engineers. So we didn't study CS in school, but somehow we hack it and learn and build it, you know, for years now, right? And we built pretty successful companies in our past as well. And the last piece, again, right, is, you know, understanding the systematic biases and having access to data, right? Whether you are building a proposal or project or hiring people or whatever it is, right? Even during interviews, like the first unconscious bias during interviews is your first impression of a candidate. There's some data out there suggests that 90% of the interview is spent either validating or denying the first impression, right? Interviewing is not a skill that everyone is born with, right? Being inclusive, open-minded, right? And doing, you know, community in a decentralized way that fosters belonging for everyone, also not natural. Right? For companies to hire more inclusively, also not natural. They just want to hire quickly and fast and hire based on what traditionally people were like, hey, what can you bring to that table, right? So yeah, for us, combining this knowledge, right, with, okay, what are the filters that are not inclusive, and what can we, and what are other ways, what are performance indicators or traits of people that are way more predictive of the real outcome. Like coding test, you know, there's space for it. But when you think about coding tests, what it actually measures is if people actually practice the coding test or have seen the algorithm before, right? There's the
just like SATs.
exactly. The actual correlation with like post-hire performance is very high, and this is, you know, this is we need to. I said this on a different after town hall, but we need to look at our assumptions, right, about the world. We need to look at our world views and challenge ourselves. Is that like a correct assumption? Right, and kind of they call it take it to the balcony, kind of remove yourself from the system, right, from the argument, and reevaluate. Yeah.
Anyone else want to share that thought about how to include people inside of Cardano?
let's see. There's something in chat. Sensibilization.
Just in a way to just do it like a, yeah. I thought like the way we can solve this problem, it is like to do the sensibilization where way to inform people what it is exactly we're doing here inside of Cardano. And another to the same way I think Snapbrillia find out about Cardano, because we're working on blockchain, and we were thinking, we start looking what kind of the system that can help us to build what we have to build, and then we find Cardano. So this way, that's the way we start with Cardano. So I think it is almost the same for some of you here. So by doing the sensibilization, so we will introduce more people to more project or more culture to this system. So I think that's why I think it is a good way to start doing the marketing and introduce people, tell them why they have to use Cardano instead of other system to do their projects.
Awesome. Who put in the training and deep understanding?
Okay. Ready? So
yeah.
What do you?
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Hey, Joss. So yeah, and I added unconscious bias training, right? I'm biased. I will tell you right away. I'm biased. I know I'm biased. I don't know how I am biased, right? And this is true almost for everyone, right? And that's natural. We're all humans. We're all have different life experiences, grow up differently, different parents, different environment, socioeconomic status, right? And that doesn't mean that if someone's like, you know, like that one way of seeing the world or thinking, right, is better than the other. They both produce biases. It's just kind of the world we live in. I have never met anybody who's like 100% inclusive, right? Or 100% equitable.
It's not exist. This was only God.
Yeah.
I'm believing God. I think only God. God called Wiggy, open his house, open call everybody.
Good point, Beatrice. So if you're looking to, like, for me, I'm looking to personally be more diverse, equitable, inclusive, and it benefits, you know, we discussed in a previous already. I think we mulled over it for 40 minutes, right? There's many different benefits: collaboration with more people, better ideas, you know, closer feedback loop, more value-based projects and proposals that's inclusive of many different cultures and communities. There's benefit of going through like some kind of unconscious bias training. I know in HR, I think Gabriel was in HR, right? You're very familiar with this, Gabriel. Yeah. And it's something that we do naturally. Like everyone has implicit biases, you know, and kind of with the share story on that, just real quick. I'm born in Vietnam originally, right? But I grew up in Czech Republic. Czech Republic is 99% white. Wait, let me make it 99 point, a bunch of nines after that white, right? It's European country. So I was one of the 3 Asian kids in my whole school of, I don't know, 700-800 people. Okay. So originally, not originally, but at first when I joined the school, everyone, I encountered quite a bit of discrimination and racism, right? But over time, everyone
All
became
blood
friends.
red.
Yeah. Yeah.
All blood red.
All blood red.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, but wait,
Yeah, and exactly the point. Over time, maybe within a couple of months, right? 3 months, 6 months, as no way, I can't quit school, right? I gotta go through it. And no, I'm still in the class. So whether they like it or not, they just have to spend time with me. And over time, like all the people, all my classmates, we became really, really good friends. Some of them became my best friends even. So that was a journey to me, like going through the surface level fear and uncertainty and just difference to bridge the gap and realize we're all human, you know, flesh and bone, blood, right? And there's like, we all share common pains. Nori.
Yeah, you say common pains. When I was learning to code, like, I'm the only woman, like from 20 something, I'm the only woman. Just like the way they were talking, just like, Beatrice, you don't belong. So I said, no, I come here to learn and I'm gonna stay. So it is very important that we have to, the courage we have to be to denounce what is not good. So when you are facing this situation like that, you have to talk to these bullies that think like they belong, but the others don't belong. We will find it everywhere. It is everywhere. It is. So you're supposed to be like bring your part on denounce. Just stop, talk against it. Anywhere you are, you see it is happening.
Popcorn tea, Nori.
I just wanted to mention or add on to your thoughts on bias training. Coming from my previous company, we did a lot of that as managers. And I think it's true, nobody is free from biases. I think that's how we function as human beings. There's a billion things coming at us at once. We have frameworks and systems to put things into nice buckets so we make sense of the world. And those naturally tend to take similar things and bundle them together, and that creates bias naturally. I think the key is to be aware of them and to understand. I put a link in for different kinds of cognitive biases, but if you understand what is similarity bias, what does it look like, how does it manifest, what's a kind of confirmation bias, and am I engaging in those things? And if we're talking about how we can improve the inclusivity of our space, maybe we can, like, one of the things that we can pay attention to is the coded language in our, or the coded red flags in our language itself, like looking at in-group versus out-group descriptors of the same attribute. So for out-of-group, you may say they're emotional or angry, but if it's an in-group person, you may call it passionate. And it's the same thing you see, but based on in or out, you describe it differently, it has a different thing, or micromanager versus detail-oriented or dives deep, or bossy versus commanding, or indecisive versus thoughtful and reflective, or aggressive and abrasive versus assertive, or stubborn or stuck in their ways versus strong-willed. Like, one is like, we put those on a pedestal, others we don't like, but it's the same action, and in-group, out-group can totally determine which language we use, and paying attention to that can actually tell us, oh, this is an out-group kind of descriptor. Maybe there's some bias there that I should be checking just to make sure that I'm actually not being biased in the situation. I think those kind of things, bringing it to mind, is really helpful to help us navigate the bias space. I just wanted to add that to the conversation there.
Nori, I thought you were gonna say for a moment there that we are biased by confirmation. Great points. Great points. I think a lot of the training there is, it seems like you already have received a set of training and your colleagues have. I think it comes down to like, what are our assumptions for the other person or whatever the action was, right? Do we believe that they mean good and positive? And even if we don't, right? Challenging ourselves to give them the benefit of doubt, unless proven otherwise, right? Yep. Awesome. Anyone else?
Sorry, I had the kids actually that came in and intruded my personal space, so I was out for like 5 minutes. I don't know, probably I'll repeat a couple of things. But I think the easiest thing would be to dissect it, right? When we talk about diversity, it's external, right? So it's really, like we spoke before, it's who we attract by who we believe in, blockchain technology, etc. I think we're good in terms of diversity, whether it's gender, whether it's globalization, passports, cultures, etc., whether it's generation, age, etc. I mean, it's more about the adoption of the blockchain in general, which will naturally feed into Cardano. So I don't think we can really do much, but we can really be very much equitable and inclusive, right? Because diversity, it's just a phenomenon, I think. How we deal with it is the success key, right? And by being equitable, it's a process or technical somehow, or a process thing. Equitable is in the code and the beliefs and the voting system, in our mindsets and the recruitment process and the HR process, etc. If it's equitable, we're set to be inclusive, right? And if we're inclusive, this is a mindset. So that's where the training, I saw bias, we're all biased, etc., unconscious bias. And I had the concept in the company I worked with, which was the inclusion advocate, for instance. It was really people, we targeted very influential people. We gave them the trainings, etc., and they will be in every decision-making call, for instance, or any meeting. And whenever we are all biased and there's one guy or one entity or whatever we want to call it that's here and really focused on us not being biased, then he or she is gonna notice, and eventually he's gonna or she's gonna say, okay, stop here. We need to take a step back because we're heading into a biased decision, outcome, whatever. So the training is internal, the ecosystem, the people that works in the ecosystem, the people we recruit, etc. Equitable is our processes, etc. And the diversity, it's the best practices we do. We're in the best, I mean, I think really diversity here, we're okay, I think. I mean, we have a small group, I think someone else is there in the Middle East for Cardano, for instance. I mean, you see the diversity is not as representative as it's not a 50-50, right? Because we're not there yet, but it's not the way it was a year ago. It's definitely like exponentially exploding. Yep. And I mean, it's great. And this is just gender diversity, right? I'm not talking, I mean, also I'm Lebanese, Brazilian living in there. I went into Cardano because I lost all my expat money for 12 years. So, you know, I mean, just in this call, I think where like the diversity speaks by itself, right? So that's my 2 cents on the discussion. Sorry if I repeated, I really missed a bit of discussions.
No, awesome comments, Gabriel. Thanks for sharing. I blame the Cardano Women Breakout Room for a lack of diversity today. But I'm very grateful that we have, you know, when I joined the group, there was a group of very strong women that support women. And by the way, they also included me, and I'm not a woman. So, you know, highly recommend you guys to join their discussion.
Gender equality.
Exactly. Vinay, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so what I would tell is when it comes to Web3, it is all about open source, right? So you do it or I do it or anyone does it, we enjoy it. But it's all about the community. So it's all about how do we form that community, how do we bring in that community, how do we coexist, right? It's not about what you have or what I have or what each one of us have separately. It is all about, it's the same technology, as in like I poke your technology, you poke my technology, but ultimately like we need a community that enjoys that whole technology, right? It's all about building the community. It's community centric. How do we do that?
Absolutely. I love the collaboration, by the way, that we have with you guys, Vinay. You know, I think naturally when we, like someone said, I think it was Gabriel, he said, we naturally attract other people who share similar values, right? And if one of our core values is collaboration, whether it's through open source or otherwise, right? Open source is just a channel, and to build a community that benefits everyone, not just a single entity or like the elite that Charles talks about, right? Then, you know, we can go further, and like I mentioned at the beginning, achieve more impact faster, right? And touch more people's lives. On the open source Vinay collaboration, and the reason why someone may want to be like more inclusive and build more diverse teams, even for open source projects, GitHub has done research into, you know, the effects of having a diverse open source team, and there's significant improvement in performance and longevity of that open source project. I'll share the links. And in the meantime, anyone else has a comment on this topic, or should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Popcorn to you, Beatrice.
Yes. So I see.
So I had like a meet with a community member, a Cardano community member yesterday, and it was like, how do I collaborate? So they have like a good product. So I have a good product, and all of us have a good product, but how do we collaborate? There's no framework to like collaborate, right? As in like, I'm new to business, probably all of us have different exposure to business. But again, when it comes to Web 2 and Web 3, Web 2 is all about what you have and what you do. But Web 3 is all about what we have and what all of us can do. So when that happens, so there's again difference between, as in people want to collaborate, but they don't know how to collaborate. So I would say there needs to be a framework, or how do we build a framework? So in fact, I would say what I've seen yesterday, Snapbrillia is the system or the framework or the dashboard. So it's all about like, how do we onboard and how do we like educate mentors, mentees, bounties. So it's a system. It needs to go hand in hand. So I seriously respect what you're doing, Ninh. So this is something what Cardano, or in fact the Web3 deserves. It's not about one thing, rules, right? It's not just Cardano. It's about everything needs to coexist. So there are like a lot of I would say like we are busy with Cardano. We are busy with what's happening here. The same way, there are like many more ecosystems to many more things happening. People are creating many more things all around the world. How do we interoperate is what we would talk in next 5 years or probably 2025. But from today till 2025, it is all about how do we create solutions to even bridge, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
Vinay. Yeah, go ahead,
go
Beatrice.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we are on it.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for your support. You know, I quit my last startup because I thought that diversity, equity, and inclusion is big enough problem in the world and affects so many people. And it's not just in the US, it's like globally, right? For example,
Global issue.
yeah, in I'm picking on India, right? In India, like 99.9% of people, you know, I would say consider themselves Indian. You guys have so many different, you know, minorities.
No, I think that's changed. Post Web3 changed.
Okay. So see, like, I need to get myself up to date, but there's some bias towards locations, towards states, cities, for sure, right? Without question.
No, in fact, that is exactly what's happening in Catalyst, right? It is biased. It's like a lot.
It's,
how do you solve
you
it?
know, it's bound to happen, right? And that's why we're here today to discuss how can we be agents of change for inclusion, equity, and diversity inside Catalyst. I think, you know, Vinay, if you see a team, Indian team, that normally you guys would not work together, reach out to see, you know, hey, let's collaborate. Be an example, right? Just like we are examples, right? We collaborate together. And I love just people just reaching out to, like, Nori is a collaborator, right? And he's just, yeah, let's connect, let's talk, let's partner. I just asked, hey, Nori, would you mind helping, joining the team? And
No,
like, yeah, I would love to.
It was really easy, right? It was like really easy, right? As in like
exactly.
Vinay talking to Ninh and Vinay talking to Nori. So we had that. It's all about how do we collaborate. It is all about like where are we open? As in like where is the union point? How do we unite?
Yeah,
yep.
So that is when, so I start off with red blood, same blood.
Yeah, so what the note that you put here, the collaboration. So I think if there is a committee inside of it, I don't know if there is already exists, but for every member, every group that come to Cardano to at least make them welcome in a way to commit what they are come to do, just explain them what is going on, then or to, you know, present their project. So it is a those people will be there only for new members to talk to them.
No, that is education.
Lead their way to, you know, where they're gonna go. So because like when I talk about Cardano, it's Ninh, explain me what's going on, because really I didn't know, because mostly me, I'm just on the Web2, you know, I'm not on the blockchain part. So they have to explain me what is going on. I know about, I heard about blockchain. You know, I know the system, all this stuff, but the Canada community really. So it's after they come to the meeting, and then this Beatrice, you have to come to the meeting. It's very important. So now you introduce me in the same way. I will do that for other people that I know, understand them, talk to them about this community. So that's why we have to have a little, like a group to introduce people inside to, in order for them to participate more on those activities. So like
it's all done. It's all done. You won't see like many more people participate.
Yes, yes. This way.
So we've been seeing Web 2. So Web 3 is all about, I would say people need to, more than seeing what it is, they need to get educated. They need to be open for education.
Yes.
People are not open for education.
Yes, that's for sure. So if you are here, you're supposed to.
So I'll give you a very good example. In fact, so right now, what Cardano faces is shortage in Haskell developers. India has Haskell developers. So there are few colleges where they teach Haskell, but are we able to onboard them? Do these Haskell developers, as in meaning, do these people who learn Haskell know what blockchain is? No.
No.
So there's a gap. So how do we? So it's not about just teaching the Haskell developers what blockchain is. It is about teaching a layman what blockchain is. If you have internet and a phone, you are on Web 3. So how do we teach them is what we need to work on.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No, I would say we are like well equipped. What I see from Snapbrillia is that you guys are like well equipped. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's the attitude we have. We have this attitude where to okay, let's make it happen. It's just like okay, but if we are when there is a will, when there's a will, there's a
way.
Yes, that's
so
the
that
way.
Is what happened. So we kept hosting awareness sessions for these Haskell learners. The first time we hosted, we had out of 113 people we sent our invitations to, we had 9 people attending the session. And then we had like 300 people we sent it to, we had like 12 people attending the session. But now we are in the college where I would say there's an educator who is teaching Haskell, but who doesn't know. The educator doesn't know what a blockchain is. So we are teaching the educator what a blockchain is. So what we expect is not just us, even the community needs to teach, as in from the community. The strong one needs to teach what blockchain is or what Cardano is or what Haskell is, because you have multiple languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Rust, Solidity. I'd say we're like divided by languages, actually. It's not by color or anything. It's like divided by languages.
That's hilarious. That's funny. Well said. That's funny. That's funny.
It's all about languages. The future is going to be like, where you going to be? Are you going to be in Cardano or are you going to be on Ethereum or, yeah. All of us need to like coexist. It's all about communities coexisting.
Yep.
Will any single community take over? If it does, good. But how?
Impossible, man. Impossible. Come on, impossible.
Yeah, can be.
Yeah. You know, in an ideal world, we would all speak one language. Right.
Amen to that. Amen to
that. Actually, speaking of language, I missed the Latin breakout room today because I asked, hey, can you guys do it in English so I can join? And they did, and then I'm hosting this
one.
I
wanted to. I went there, but I didn't understand anything. So I was like, okay,
right.
Let them enjoy.
It's hard to contribute, right, if language is the barrier. So there's obviously like the collaboration and inclusion barriers right off the bat. But at the same time, right, it's not just a responsibility on the community to provide translation. That would be good, more realistic for the community grow. But also, I've learned that you know, every language you learn is a whole new world that you unlock. A whole new world, right? Yeah.
We are a dirty state where I speak 6 languages, Indian languages, and I comment about something that happens in our community, as in like grow India, grow Cardano, we get jagged. So it's like it's biased, right? Again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're like, okay, why do we like talk about languages when we can talk about open source development? So we are there. We are not in talking about languages.
Yeah, yeah. But it's the same, right? If you learn like Plutus, Haskell, or Rust, or Solidity, or whatever you're learning, JavaScript, React,
These are technical language,
right? Same concept. Everything you learn, it's a whole new world of possibilities that open up to you.
Let's work for that.
Yep. Awesome. And, by the way, guys, sorry, Vinay, just to quickly interrupt. By the way, guys, we do have a slide here. Feel free to add yourself there. The recording will be uploaded to Swarm. Okay, so you know, if you want to connect and collaborate in the spirit of inclusion and diversity and equity, if you have a proposal, right, that works on these are our two. As a company, we're super focused on DI. This is one that's by Tommy, who couldn't make it, but he asked me, hey, put it in, so check it out. Put yourself in any Discord, email link, Telegram, so that people can reach out. And of course, feel free to reach out to any of us.
The Jamboard will stay online and accessible, the link to it?
Forever. As long as Google doesn't, yeah, exactly. Google stays alive, I guess.
So I thank every one of you guys for participating in this tech talk. So it is really important that we talk about it because it exists inside of our system, inside of our community, everywhere. So we have to, like Emily said earlier, we have to pay attention to ourselves as well in order to not be biased, to not contribute to increase this problem, so and still be a solution. And
no, that's a very simple problem.
yeah, and talking with people in our community.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ninh and team. Thanks
a lot. Of course. Thanks for joining. Please put your contact in there. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. We are gonna transition to our next segment and talk about, you know, the quadratic voting and funding technical plan in the spirit of inclusiveness, right? I shared the link where, you know, a member of our community commented on our proposal and pointed some things that are missing. And I wanted to make sure and respect the passion that he had. If you guys are curious, I'll share the link in the chat again. But me and
no, those are the inputs for improvement.
Yeah. Exactly. So we want to share, you know, the detailed plan so that, you know, the community has the ability to learn, to join us in our mission, to collaborate, and give us feedback, right? Feedback is extremely important, especially if we want to build something that protects the values of the community, like this one. So thank you. Thanks for joining. See you guys next time. We may have another breakout room, just by show of hands. Like, would you guys want to cover diversity?
More.
Yes,
let's have many. Let's have
I shouldn't
many
have
more.
even asked.
Yes. See you next week.
Awesome.
Be like
Let's
that,
have many more, and it's gonna be a consortium.
Awesome.
Maybe
are we gonna continue in the same room or?
Yeah, well, let's continue in the same room. Ashton, go ahead.
Cheers.
I would say maybe we could, you could see if the women of Cardano would be willing to not co-host, but if maybe merge the two next week.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Juliana. I'm historically pretty good at collaboration, but when it comes to breakout room collaboration, that is my weakness. So thanks for your reminder.
I wouldn't want to necessarily like override what needed to happen elsewhere. So it might be useful. Otherwise, I have to decide between two, and I can never figure out what to do.
You're you're a good point, Ashton, because look I'm the only woman here, so I needed more women to talk as well. So that's really
And we are
good.
not biased.
No, we're not biased. No, we're not. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for
you,
joining.
guys. Yeah.
Guys and gals.